everyone! So today I want to talk about study tips for physical therapist assistant school. I got this question the other day and I thought it would be a good one to kind of go over because there are a lot of study tips I feel like I learned from others and I wish I had implemented them at the very beginning. And the first one is printing out PowerPoints before lecture. So usually during lecture you'll have a PowerPoint presentation that your teacher will give you. And so printing that out beforehand will actually help you during class because you can highlight the things that the teacher says or make notes and you're not having to rewrite everything. And some people do like that as a study tool as well, to rewrite things, but for me, like, it's easier just to have it in front of me and be able to add on the things that the teacher is talking about. So that's the first study tip that I feel like nobody really talks about, but printing out those PowerPoints beforehand gives you like a little bit of an advantage, I feel like. So that's my tip number one, is printing out PowerPoints beforehand. And I know, here's another thing, I know that it takes kind of a lot of ink and a lot of money. For example, I didn't even have a printer, so I didn't actually do this, but I have a lot of people that did. But the pros of doing this is that you're going to have a manual reference to go back to if you print these things out. So I highly suggest doing it. There are a lot of resources that schools might have where you can print out things. I know my school did, and it wasn't that expensive, but I know that it gets pricey, especially because there's a lot of material and a lot of PowerPoints, but that's kind of a disclaimer there. So it does cost more money to do that, but I think it's worth it in the long run. So you can just bring a highlighter, highlight the things your teacher says, and like write notes next to it. And some people will do the notes where they have 3 PowerPoints, like the PowerPoint boxes, and then they have like lines next to it where they can write down the notes. So that's my tip number one, is printing out PowerPoints beforehand so you have it during lecture where you can write notes on, and so you're not rewriting everything. That's it for number one. Okay, so number two, so I didn't do this, we only had one girl in my class do this, but if this is your thing, then you might like this, but recording lectures, that's also one. I didn't do this, mostly because I didn't have time to re-listen to everything that I had just been lectured to about, but that's another study tip, is actually bringing your phone in and recording what the teacher is saying and listening to it later on, like in the car or whatever. That's my study tip number 2. Study tip number 3 is a simple one. Study tip number 3 is kind of one that people kind of miss, like me, because it takes so much time, but reading through all the material, which sounds easy, but it's actually really difficult because there's a lot of different books, there's a lot of material, and you're trying to study for tests, and you want to know just the most important details of the test sometimes because you don't have time. At least I felt like I didn't have enough time to read through everything. But that being said, I'm not a very good reader, so that's probably why. What else? Oh, study supplies, or supplies before you go into the program. So I suggest having binders for each class, or at least a notebook with a section of notebook pages, like you know those books that have the different sections, and you can like with each subject you can write whatever notes you want in that subject, and then it splits it in half. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say that? Like the notebooks with the sections in it. That's what I had. I had binders for like the big classes like kinesiology, neuro, and modalities. Those 3 classes you'll probably need a binder in. Patient care and skills as well. I don't know. I suggest having binders for each class just so you can stay organized. Like my stuff, because I'm not a very organized person, if you didn't already know that, but everything was just kind of like a bomb hit it, I feel like, when I graduated, because I had so many books, so many notebooks, and I didn't go about it in a very organized way. But I learned a lot from the other students in my class that did probably a lot better than me. So learn from your mistakes, but those are some study materials I would get. And then obviously you're gonna need pencils, highlighters, pens. Some people loved, they loved having different colored pens so that they could write things. I don't know, I'm not that organized, but some people really liked that. So for each subject or for each topic, they had a different color for each thing. So if you're into that, go do that. If you're not, then don't do it. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Study tip number 5 million. Number 5 or 4. I can't even remember now. That's awkward. It's funny because I'm just spewing these out because I did this video before, but this lighting is so much better, I decided to just do it now. But what's another study tip? Oh, here's another study tip. Make sure that you have the correct books. I mean, you're gonna get a list of books that you need to purchase, but bringing your books to class and going through the book and highlighting things your teacher talks about is also very, effective. Sometimes your teachers will be crabby though and not go the right, I guess the proper, how do I say this? Basically they don't go in order of where the pages are a lot of the times. So sometimes it's ineffective. If they go with the book, it's really effective to bring your book and highlight the things that you need. But that's another study tip, is bringing the book and highlighting while your teacher is talking. So that's another thing. You'll learn in your program what kind of learner you are. At least we did. I don't know if every program does that. So you're either going to be like an auditory learner, which is like where you are really good at remembering what people say to you. So in lecture, when the teacher is talking, you're very good at taking in that information and remembering it just by listening. So there's auditory, and then there's, why can't I remember these? There's auditory, visual. The second one is visual. So when you look at something, like when you look at a picture, you remember it better, or when you look at charts, things like that. And then the other one is kinesthetic learning, which is what I am. And that's a lot of what physical therapy is kinesthetic learning. So that is basically by doing it. So that sounded, not doing that, but just doing like that, and just performing the, how do I say this without it sounding really nasty? Doing, like, for example, if you have to do dermatomes and you're like feeling the different dermatomes and you have to do that on somebody, then that would be kinesthetic. Or going through the exercises, that would be kinesthetic. A lot of people that play sports, I feel like, are kinesthetic learners because they have to perform the exercises or perform the tasks that you need to do in order to play sports. So a lot of people are kinesthetic learners that play sports. So yeah, I kind of went into that as a tangent, but you'll learn what kind of learner you are, and that will kind of be the way you're going to study, if that makes sense. I think that's probably everything that I have about studying tips. If you have any studying tips that you think, oh, also flashcards. That was another study tip that I forgot. Flashcards are really good because you can quiz yourself on things. Sometimes you're not going to have somebody there to quiz you all the time. My husband was that for me a lot, but sometimes you're not going to have that. So doing your own study flashcards is really important to quiz yourself, and also writing all of that information down on cards will help you remember it as well. So that's a really good study tool. Also, making your own study guide is a really good study tool. So going through maybe the objectives on your own and filling those all out is also very effective. And study groups. Study groups are awesome. If you can bounce back and forth ideas and how you remember this, or how, everyone remembers it differently. They say to do study groups between like 2 and 4 people is the most effective. Once you get around 6, it's kind of too much. At least for me it is. I don't know if that's everybody, but they also say that, I feel like a burp is coming out. Okay, so they say the groups between 2 and 4 people are the most effective, and also each person, if each person kind of not studies differently, but you don't want the same type of people in your group. You want the smart ones, you want the dumb ones, you want the people that learn differently than you in your study group, so it can be more effective. Although some personalities, I feel like, just don't mesh and don't study well together, so also keep that in mind. But I think those are all of my study tips for now. I'll probably edit this video tonight and put it up tonight. Sorry I'm kind of late on it. I told somebody last week. I think I told somebody last week that I would do it last week, but it was kind of crazy because I'm studying for my national boards exam right now, and so it's taking up a lot of my time. But wish me luck on that. Okay, and I have put this dog to sleep, so I think it's time to go. Anyway, everyone, hopefully you have a great day and keep smiling. Okay, love you all.